Nobody becomes a professional race car driver by accident. Some become professional racers by dominating every level starting at the age of 3. Many more become a professional racer by bringing money and providing funding to a team. But the harsh reality is, if you're just 16 years old and you have never sat in a race car before, and you don't come from generational wealth, you will not become a professional race car driver. At least, that's how it used to be. This is the story so far of a kid who had nothing but a dream and his journey to becoming a household name in the NASCAR world. And mostly told through his own words, this is the story of Rajah Caruth. Growing up, Rajah did not come from a racing family, but he quickly fell in love with racing and specifically NASCAR through the movie Cars. It was after this movie where his curiosity stemmed into the real world.
But my first legit memory outside of the Cars movie, I remember watching the 2009 RFX 250. Brad Keselowski beat Brian Vickers and KB at Michigan. That was cool because I liked Brad's GoDaddy car. It was pretty cool.
Soon, his interest turned into a dream of becoming a race car driver, but not necessarily knowing how to go about it.
I dreamt of it every day, especially as I got older and I went to my first race and knew, it was what I wanted to do. But I had a cinematic arts class in either sophomore or junior year of high school. And it was a lot of computer, do your own work. And I'd be doing my own work, but in the backgrounds, I just had onboards playing on YouTube because I'd have on headphones.
His main problem, though, was that he had never raced anything more than go-karts, and his only NASCAR experience came from NASCAR video games, and specifically NASCAR 15.
I dreamt of it for years. Did I think it was really going to happen? A lot of times, no, but I kind of just chose the naive route of just being hopeful until I got more information on how to create a plan.
But Rajah's first true step towards his dream began just after his 16th birthday when he and his parents raised enough money to buy himself a racing simulator and a subscription to iRacing.
I started iRacing on June 16th, a couple days after I turned 16. I did the Ignite series that summer and fall. So I got iRacing literally 2 or 3 days before they announced the series. I had no clue it was happening. I just aimlessly got connected to get on iRacing because I thought somehow or another I would go from there to real life, not having any clue that, eventually they were going to make that division. So that summer, I had a summer job. Marion Barry's summer youth employment program. I had track workouts, sometimes basketball workouts through that whole summer. And then whenever I was at home, I would literally be just go and get on the game. And I was not competitive for the first 3 weeks. Luckily, I had some buddies that I had played NASCAR 15 with over the years, and they kind of showed me the ropes a little bit. Honestly, I just did a lot of laps just kind of by myself.
But whether it be the help he had from his friends, the amount of laps that he did, or maybe he was just a natural at iRacing, Rajah became very competitive within just a few short months. And suddenly he found himself in the thick of the eNASCAR Ignite series, where the service's best 13 to 16-year-olds battle for a shot at glory. But since Rajah was already 16, this would be his final year of eligibility.
I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it was like Road to Pro, where you had anybody could do the 8-week regular season. Top 50 made the playoffs. I made the championship. I got wrecked in one of the heat races or whatever. And so I honestly, after that, I thought I was cooked. I thought that was my chance.
But even only with this iRacing experience on his resume, Rajah decided to take a shot in the dark and apply to the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, a program that has seen the likes of Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, among many others, flourish as real-life NASCAR drivers.
I went to Dover, kind of met some of the people, handing out business cards, whatever. I'm Rajah. I'm doing this iRacing series. Otherwise, I have no racing experience. Hoping to make y'all program.
Eventually, Rajah learned that he had been selected for a tryout for Rev Racing, also known as NASCAR Drive for Diversity's team. His very first experience behind an oval racing car was going to be his one and only chance to have a racing career.
I thought I sucked at the tryout, but evidently I didn't suck too bad, and Sure enough, they picked me for, their youth program for that year. I had one test with my friend Daniel Silvestri and his dad at Shenandoah Speedway, and then had one test at the now gone Concord Speedway 5th mile track. First race was at the shootout in the summer of 2019. I think it was the day I turned 17, actually.
Now, Rajah, who was still only 17 years old, was thrust into the world of competitive racing, and it did not all come without any speed bumps. For his first year, Rajah raced only Legends cars and struggled to find the speed that he expected out of himself in them.
I didn't run super well in Legend cars. Those things were really hard for me to figure out. They honestly gave me time to develop, and I was super appreciative of them. The team, Rev Racing, and the program, NASCAR Drive for Diversity. They gave me time to kind of learn. And to be fair, I moved to North Carolina after I graduated high school, kind of worked in the race shop, learning the ropes, making mistakes on and off the track. Because I had just turned 18, so I was living by myself, kind of just learning how to exist. The year after, they moved me to late models. I still race Legend cars, but they moved me up to late models. Took me probably 10 races to kind of figure it out a little bit, and that is kind of when I started having better results in Legend cars and late models. So I'd say it took a year to get the training wheels off. Well, I got my first pole in the Legend car at the shootout. In late models, I got my first top 5 at Hickory. Then I won my first race at Greenville Pickens in the fall of 2020. I guess they saw from the progression I had that they put me in the ARCA East ride for 21.
Now that Rajah had been racing for 2 seasons and had seen steady progression and success, he was moved up to the ARCA East Series to race along with other top NASCAR prospects. And once again, Rajah would have to learn on the job.
I didn't get a test or nothing. My first lap was in practice for the race. Honestly, I wasn't even that nervous. Because honestly, I didn't really know what was going on, if we're being real. But I didn't do terribly in practice. I think I was top 5 in practice. I qualified 7th because I hit the apron in 3 and 4. I remember that. And then in the race, there was a stack up on the first lap, and it knocked the grill in. And the gauges the water got hot, and I pitted because I'm like, the red gauge. What am I supposed to do? Not having the common sense from years of driving, and not having that explained to me, yeah, your temp would get hot because your grill's pushed in, but you don't got to pit. So I just was laps down.
And after getting off to that slow start, Rajah was back in business with a couple good results at Pensacola and Nashville, leading into the 4th race at Dover.
I think stuff didn't materialize till Dover, because in the time between, I swept the Night of Twins at Hickory, so I won 2 there. Then I won a race at Tri-County. Dover, I ran well because Ty won that race. Josh Berry ran 2nd. I was kind of 3rd, racing with Josh, and Parker Resclaff that race. I blew a tire when I was in 3rd, but that was kind of when I first started to get some kind of attention.
Rajah completed the full schedule of 8 races in the ARCA East Series in 2021, where he scored 2 top 5s, but then was moved to the ARCA Menard Series for 2022. And while he was still driving for Rev Racing in the ARCA car, there were some other things cooking for Rajah.
My Xfinity owner, Tommy Joe Martins, reached out to me after the race. Was like, good job, he saw how well I was running. So,
but even with all this happening behind the scenes, Rajah was just as active as ever on his favorite game, iRacing.
I just was strictly iRacing. On the game that time, I would literally, similar to what I do now, I would just do fixed races and IS races, kind of follow the schedule of real life. Sometimes it would help. I gave Roto Pro a couple tries. In 2020, I kind of gave up on it in the middle of the year, which was stupid because I was easily locked into the top 20 in points.
Even though he was backed in ARCA by Rev Racing, he had to look for other avenues just like any other struggling driver to get rides anywhere else.
At the end of 21, I signed an offer with Alpha Prime to do my Xfinity debut with them in 22 and some races with them, and then some more in 23 with the option for full-time in 23. 22, I do Richmond, Dover, do well for the equipment because it wasn't winning stuff. It was mid-pack stuff, but out qualifying some good teams, showing speed. I wrecked at Pocono. Otherwise, I did pretty good in that car, I think, in 22, especially my last 2 or 3 races, top 20s. That kind of propelled me to get noticed for the GMS truck ride, along with how I finished the ARCA season with Rev in 22.
And similar to what happened in both iRacing and the short track side of things, after Rajah took some time to get used to the car, he had greater goals for himself.
I think the ARCA car for me, the goal was to win races and compete for the championship. Like I led the points for over half the season, and then like changed my crew chief, some stuff happened behind the scenes, and then I lost the championship, and then consequently didn't get the truck ride with Rev the year after. Which is, I mean, I'm not saying that like out of spite or anything, to be clear, but that's just kind of how that kind of went. From that point forward, like I just saw the Xfinity and truck races I did in 22 as an audition to get noticed for something for 2023.
And after using his opportunities in both the Spire truck and the ARCA car and the Tommy Joe Martin's Xfinity car, he finally got the call he had been waiting for from the championship NASCAR truck team GMS Racing.
That was kind of in development for over the course of the year with the relationship we developed with the Wendell Scott Foundation.
But now that Rajah was competing on a championship team and with a full-time sponsor, there was no time to have a slow start. The pressure was on.
I expected to win races and make the playoffs. Did that happen? Nope. So that kind of was an uphill battle from jump. Like we were behind from the start of the year. To be fair, I figured out kind of how to make speed in the first part of the year, but not necessarily how to finish races. I think I put myself in some bad spots at the beginning of the season, which all kind of culminated at that first Kansas race. First time running the top 5 and blocking really aggressively and get myself crashed. From that race forward, really just kind of was my canon moment for the year. It kind of put everything in perspective, you know?
Did you ever have that feeling like, man, this is my only shot and maybe I'm not making the most of it?
Oh, I definitely felt like that. Especially the late summer into the playoffs and stuff, not making the playoffs. I felt like that all year, you know, and even into the off season for sure.
But even though the results were nowhere near what Rajah wanted and expected out of himself, there were positive signs to end off the year.
From Darlington, you know, running in the top 5, finishing 6th. Charlotte being top 5 in the first stage and driving from the back twice with pit road issues to finish 11th. You know, breaking out of the lead at Nashville. I think from that point forward into the summer, I kind of figured things out, and then I felt like things were starting to move in the right direction in the playoffs. Too little, too late, right? I mean, obviously not being in it, but I kind of figured that out.
And then, seemingly out of nowhere, an opportunity came about that literally nobody expected. The newly relaunched Hendrick Motorsports Xfinity Series program had only run its Cup drivers throughout the season, with Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman all taking turns in the ride. But come the series finale at Phoenix, where no Cup drivers could participate in the race, the ride was offered to Rajah Caruth.
That was my biggest audition, I felt like, out of all of last year. I felt like I executed the weekend pretty completely. You know, obviously those guys are really good, right? I kind of expected to go in and pop in and run up front, and that's not what happened. Rightfully so, because those guys are really good. Took me all race to get into the top 10, but was going to finish probably 8th or 10th, and then John Hunter did John Hunter things.
In the end, Rajah finished in 14th position, but showed speed, especially towards the end, and the potential that he could achieve even more. But maybe his showing out on the racetrack that day just wasn't enough.
I laid my head down after that race, and I was like, you know, if nothing else happens moving forward, or that was it for my driving, like, I could be okay, because I did the due diligence, I did the work, I gave it all I had, and that's it.
After Rajah's current team GMS announced that they were shutting down and that he had no other Xfinity Series or Truck Series team lined up, the days and months ticked by and Rajah was just waiting for that one call.
You know, Spire, we always had the interest there through making my first truck starts for them in 22, but it just literally came down to funding, right? Like, my family obviously doesn't own a hearing aid company or owns a team or an oil business or things like that, and that's not, like I said, the spider or throw shade at anybody. It just is what it is. So having to rely on others funding to support my driving, you know, Mr. H and Miss Linda and the Hendrick Automotive Group, they were originally going to sponsor Kyle and do some races, you know, at Spire, but they wanted to support me, and I'm super grateful for that, because I don't take that lightly, right? Because it's like people are putting their resources, their hard-earned funds behind people working on and a person driving a race car, a race truck.
Rajah's new team, Spire Motorsports, recently acquired KBM, which is Kyle Busch's truck team, which had a reputation for having some of the fastest trucks in the series. There was no more excuses for Rajah. He was on a strong team with strong cars and a strong sponsor, and going into Daytona, the expectations and the buzz was higher than ever.
My goal was just to see the end of the race, and I really just stayed on the bottom and didn't do much till the end of the race. Really made kind of aggressive moves too early. Got tight off of turn 2, and unfortunately caused a big crash. Feels a lot worse, that's for sure. Especially I think about like with that crash, like the one dude that was flipping Taylor, like that's one of the few guys I'd hang out with outside of the racetrack. That definitely was not cool to see him flying through the air, and it wasn't really something I did on purpose either. So I feel like it would have been different if I had intention of blowing up the racetrack and trying to fit in a hole that wasn't there, but I literally just got tight. I had already had some damage to the right side of the truck, just kind of a tough one to move on from, just because of not only did I know I caused it and it wasn't on purpose, but just kind of dealing with all the media and all that stuff after the race immediately, and then some other stuff as a whole. So it wasn't a lot of fun, but it was nice to have my family around me, my team around me, because they had my back and helped uplift me, and then just kind of get ready for the next race.
So as Rajah left Daytona with a controversial third-place finish and a lot more eyes on his truck, Rajah now had to move on to Atlanta with a clear mind, but once again, he had a very fast truck.
I made some mistakes with line choice. We cut a tire, but we salvaged the day and with a top 10. So I was pretty confident with that. But I just kind of was focused on Vegas. I did a lot of simulation work getting ready for that race, and was just ready to get there, to be honest.
So after getting through both the super speedway races, it was time for Rajah to make a new type of noise.
So I think going into the race, felt like I wasn't necessarily seen, whether from competitors or from elsewhere, as like somebody that they needed to pay attention to, from just a speed standpoint, from a competitiveness standpoint. And so I kind of had that little chip on my shoulder going into the weekend.
Along with the usual cast of NASCAR truck drivers, Rajah had to face off against one of the people that he looked up to, and even one of the drivers that got him into the sport in the first place. Kyle Busch entered his home track truck race at Las Vegas Speedway as the winningest Truck Series driver of all time, and for this singular race, Rajah Caruth's teammate at Spire Motorsports. But this did not intimidate Rajah, because he was going to race Kyle like he would race anybody else. And he would also start the race from the pole.
So we got the pole, so that was good, and kind of spent the first stage learning how to be competitive, how to race in the top 5 and race for the lead. It's a lot more give and take and stuff, and so that's was great to learn. We lost track position there at the pit stop. At the end of the second stage, I just kind of got too loose, which is kind of how my truck was all night. Then caught those guys before the stop, and we just executed it. We pitted, and I tried to catch the 98 on the green flag stop entry, and I got there, and I felt like I sped, so I gave it back. In reality, I didn't speed, and he did, and I was like, oh.
With a couple of the key contenders getting speeding penalties on the critical final pit stop, the lineup for the virtual lead was Rajah's friend Taylor Gray in first, Rajah in second, and Kyle Busch in third. But with Kyle Busch coming with a full head of steam, Kyle Busch too learned that he also had a pit road penalty. It was down to Taylor Gray and Rajah Caruth.
And I didn't find out until after I was getting on the backstretch, and then my spotter Joey was like, the 98 sped, the 2 sped, and I was like, huh? And I was like, there's no way. And then I saw the 17, and I knew that's who you would have to race against. So
after a couple lap-long battle with Taylor Gray, he completed the pass for the virtual first place spot. And of course, the Fox broadcast missed this. With clean air and some of the best tires on the track, he just had to manage the gap to the eventual second place driver Tyler Ankrum for about 30 laps. It is at this point in the race where the leader and the entire team are just praying for no caution to fly, because a late race caution at a track like Las Vegas can mean absolute chaos. And what seems to be a rarity in the current day truck series, all of the trucks made it incident-free around to the white flag.
it's just relief. so many things can happen, but you get to the white flag and it's over. You just got to get it back to the line. And I had enough of a gap to the trucks behind me that I could just kind of just make it to the end. So it was a pretty surreal feeling, and I can't wait to share it again.
And as Rajah Caruth did burnouts in his red, white, and blue Hendrick cars number 71, he knew that he had only one final drive from the front stretch to the infield to complete his dream of going from a race fan watching NASCAR in cars during class to NASCAR victory lane.
Having my parents there and calling to my family after, that was very special. Ross came to see me in victory lane. Corey Heim came to see me in victory lane, and that meant a lot because those are guys that I've worked out with and raced against over the years, and so to have that respect and receive that was really special.
But looking back at the years of work that got him here, it was almost impossible for Rajah to overlook his almost impossibly humble roots.
For me, iRacing is the only reason why I was able to start to chase my dream, and then help elevate me to a level to where I could really grab hold and start making some headway on it. From giving me a platform with the Ignite series, and I think about that same level with divisions like the Coke series, the College series on here, to give drivers, I think, the notoriety and eyes to make a jump to race in real life. To this day, it's a good tool for me to get laps at the track every weekend before we go. Most of the time just for fun, sometimes even to learn the racetracks and get a little better at it. So it's an active part of my routine, an active part of my life, and has really helped me just get to this point as a whole. So without iRacing, I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
Thank you. Anything else you want to shout out, or something that you want to talk about that you didn't get to talk about?
That's it. Sorry to the people I wrecked on the game. That's it.